Howdy folks, thanks for stopping in at Big Mook's Forge. In today's Mordheim video, I'm going to talk about two combat options that, while on the surface may seem not to be very useful, can be very powerful if used wisely. Flee and Disengage.
Big Mook's Forge.
At first glance, Flee and Disengage appear to be the opposite of your objectives in Mordheim, because in Mordheim, you need to crush your enemies and force them to flee the battlefield in defeat, while your warband pillages all of the treasures for themselves, right? Well, in the mean streets of Mordheim, it's the wisest and most clever warband leader that's going to return to his or her war camp with the lion's share of the loot and less medical bills. In the chaos of battle, things won't always go as planned, and you'll be forced to make adjustments on the fly to swing the scales in your favor. Sometimes, to make these adjustments, you're going to need to be able to break contact with the enemy at times to make sure that your units are fighting in a location that is tactically favorable and against an outclassed or outnumbered enemy. Two of these options you have at your disposal are the Flee and Disengage commands. In order to use these commands, there are a few criteria that have to be met. First, your character must have the required strategy points and or offense points to spend on the action. And secondly, your unit must have a clear path behind them in order to move out of combat. When both these criteria are met, the options will appear in your ability wheel. Fleeing from combat allows any enemies that you're engaged with a free attack on your character before he exits stage left, and you have no control over where that character runs to. And disengaging from combat costs more offense points and strategy points, but the enemy doesn't get any free attacks on you, and you have full control over your character. Now keep in mind that when you flee or disengage, your opponent may simply run you down on their turn in the initiative order. So keep an eye on that initiative bar and make sure you have other units nearby that can intercept him before he catches up to you. An enemy character with a ranged weapon in his hands has no way to attack you if you flee. Also, when your unit is in combat with a stunned opponent, you can walk away from that combat by disengaging for free. And this only works if all the opposing units in the combat are stunned. There are plenty of reasons why you'd want to break contact and leave close combat. For example, you just picked up 3 wordstone clusters and here comes an enemy unit trying to pin you in combat. Now you really don't want to get taken out with that much loot, so the next time your turn comes around, you bug out. Should you find yourself in close combat and see enemy reinforcements bearing down on you, it may be worth disengaging from combat and moving to a location where you have more units, or at the very least a tactical advantage. Finding a doorway or a hallway to limit the number of enemy combatants that can attack you may buy you enough time to move more friendly units into the area. You could use the good old bait and switch maneuver. That's when you swap a weaker unit out for a killing machine before your opponent can react. By simply disengaging from combat with the weaker unit and then re-engaging the same enemy with a stronger unit. In order to pull this off, you have to pay close attention to the initiative bar and know which units act and when. Prudent use of the delay command may be in order here. You can also consider disengaging a unit that has nearly spent all of its offense points and moving in a fresh unit to use its offense points on the same enemy. You know, kind of like tag team wrestling. In a lot of cases, you'll have more than one close combat going at once. It may be favorable to disengage a unit from a fight you have well in hand and join a different close combat that may be leaning in the enemy's favor. As a player who favors the rats, my personal favorite is to pop into an existing close combat with my assassin, score a couple of poison vital strikes, and then get out of dodge before the enemy can retaliate. When disengaging, you're spending a couple of strategy points and won't be able to move as far. Now, I know I've said this already, but it's very important to remember that on your opponent's turn, he may simply re-engage your unit. So plan carefully, because this can be to your favor or doom depending on how well you planned your movements ahead of your disengagement. Dragging your opponent past a character set to ambush or to an area where you have a tactical advantage is desirable, whereas running around the corner to find the rest of his warband waiting would be no bueno. Even though very situational, there are a number of ways beyond those I've suggested here to use these two combat options to great effect. My intention in creating this video is to point out that not every fight has to be a fight to the death, and to put these two tools in your toolbox to move you closer to the top of Mordheim's very steep learning curve. I appreciate you taking the time to watch my video, and if you found this video useful or entertaining, well, give me a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more videos like this one, well, mash that subscribe button. That's all I've got for you folks today. I'll see y'all on the mean streets of Mordheim.
You'll follow, Mook.